Hmm.
Well, hi, I'm Gary. I'm an alcoholic, and welcome to the Saturday night meeting of recovery meeting for Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the working step meeting tonight, and we'll meet for approximately 1 hour and a half without a break. And out of respect for others, we just requested to refrain from cross talking or commenting what others are sharing, and just keep yourself muted in between. And we'll just start with a moment of silence to remember those of us that are still out in suffering, and then follow it with the set aside prayer. So the short version of the set aside prayer I have here is just God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself, recovery, you, and the 12 steps, that I might have an open mind and a new experience. Amen. So as Jill mentioned last week, we were started to look at steps 8 to 9, and we this is kind of where we learn to practice a bit of humility, accountability, and vulnerability. In step 8, we talked about the types of harm we had done, including, just the lack of our presence. And we started working on a list of those we'd harmed. We talked about the yeah buts as well. When we start thinking about people we've harmed and go, yeah, but they did stuff to me as well. And the fact that our role is to just set that aside, and try to clean our side of the street. We don't try to take anybody else's inventory. We're just working on our own here. And then we talked about having to work on our readiness to reach out, involve our higher power in this work, bring them along in helping to create a 2.0 version of ourselves, as Jill likes to say. And we do that, through the actions that we take in our step 9. Just as a reminder, we don't need to tackle this work alone. We ask our higher power to help, you know, be present when we're doing the work, and we just become willing to make amends, and as we talked about before, amending isn't just apologizing, it's amending your ways, mending the way you behave, fixing the damage that you've caused in the past, and basically becoming willing to leave behind the character defects that were hindering us from being of service to our higher power and our fellows, and asking help, in developing, strengthening the attributes that better serve these purposes, both to our higher power and to the others, you know, fixing our relationships with other people. And yeah, you know, step 8 is just making that list. The people that we've harmed, we're going to talk about how to flesh out that list to make sure we've captured everybody along the way, and then become willing, wherever possible, to undertake step 9 with those people. And as we talked about last week, this is not a once and done thing. Step 9 can take a long time to get through everybody. We don't have to go out and find everybody right now, but what we're looking for at this point is the willingness to reach out to the people that we can and start the work. And on that note, I just wanted to pick up on the end of step 9 in the big book, where it talks about the, sorry, I'm taking off my screen here, what they call the ninth step promises, which is starts at the bottom of page 83. You don't need to pull it up, Ron, but I'm just going to read it because this is what all this work is all about. It says, and just keep in mind, you've probably heard these promises before, but they relate directly to the work that we're about to undertake here. It says, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We'll not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We'll soon suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not.
I
They
think
are being
not.
fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. And as I mentioned last week, for me, that started off as a wish list when I first saw it. And then when I started doing this work, it started turning into a checklist. And then over time, that list became just a way of life. Those fear of economic insecurity, fear of people, fear of relationships, all those things started to disappear as I started to, become one with the rest of humanity. I got out of my own way and I started to feel like, you know, I was worthy of being a person again. And clearing up the wreckage of your past is part of what changes the way you feel. And that's what we're working on now. So I'm going to turn it over to Jill at this point to start in on the reading.
Thank you very much, Gary, and thank you all for letting me be of service. My name's Jill, and I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. We've
Good
got a
job.
lot of great material to get through tonight. And so here's how I got kind of carried away, and here's how I've sorted the material so it makes sense for me. And so if you want to keep up, tonight is going to be full of lists. But you don't have to write everything down right now because it's in your materials. So let's call up page 55, which is lesson 8, steps 8 and 9. And this is the PDF materials on the website. And I'm going to start in on step 9. And because Gary's pretty much 8 and 9 go together as we've discussed. So Ron, if you can screen share that, this is going to be your first list. And in this on page 55 of that, there are 2 lists. So let's just recap what step 9 says. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so. Who's yelling? Hang on, someone yelling? Oh, Bar. Oh, okay, I'll mute her. Okay. All right, let's, okay, so made direct amends. So it's the qualities we need to accomplish this step. Does everybody see that? Right at the beginning. So scroll down, Ron, and go on to 55. Step 9. So keep going. Next page. Okay, here we are. Step 9. Okay, see there, guys? It says the qualities we need to accomplish this step are, and I don't know if we can, let me see if I can make that bigger. Can everybody read that? Okay, so here's the qualities that you need. That's in the very first sentence. Number 1, good judgment. 2, careful sense of timing. 3, courage. And 4, prudence. Can everybody see that? Yeah, maybe just make it a bit bigger if you can. Okay, there we go. So prudence actually means care, caution, and good judgment. So that's the first list. These are what we need. These are our character assets, our 2.0 versions of ourselves that we're building that we need to have in order to go in and do our amends. So good judgment, careful sense of timing. In other words, we do this with reflection, and we'll get into the details on that. Courage, another character essence, and prudence. And again, the definition of prudence is care, caution, and good judgment. Okay, and then I really found this super helpful, guys. This is really good practical advice for doing amends. It says there's 4 types of amends to be made. And again, you don't have to write this all out, but in my little notebook, I wrote out 4 types of amends and then I hand wrote these out again. So it was clear in my own head. I have to make amends to individuals who are readily available and to whom I need to make amends as soon as possible. So you see what I'm doing on this list 1 to 5? I'm making it personal to Jill. I need to make amends as soon as possible to the people who are readily available. Okay, procrastination is a character defect. That's got to go out the window. Two, I need to make amends um, uh, there to those who I can only make partial restitution, as a complete disclosure would bring harm to others or to ourselves. So this is when we work with a sponsor and we say, okay, I got this tricky situation because if I go in and I talk about, try and make amends about my love affair, he's married, he's got 2 kids, who am I doing this for? Complete disclosure might bring harm to others, and that others can include myself. Okay? Three, those whose actions ought to be delayed at least for the time being. And that can be because it's just happened. It might be something where somebody's just too raw to have you turn up on the doorstep or me turn up on the doorstep and make amends. But that's just the action needs to be delayed. And again, your sponsor can help you figure that one out. Four. Now, I love this. I've never thought of this before. Those we have to take and circle it a creative approach to, such as people who are unreachable or who have passed away. A creative approach. So there might be a very specific situation that you're trying to rectify. Say you stole something from an art gallery. Maybe you need to make donations now to that art gallery or make donations to a children's art project or something like that. So I really like this creative approach. And it also doesn't give us the get out of jail free clause to make blanket amends when we know specifically that something in our conscience is telling us we've got to clear it up. And that goes, and this is going to get into some really cool information later on for what to do when that person is deceased. And I really clear directions. Just love this stuff. So those are the 5 types of amends that we do. Okay. Most of us begin, I'm just continuing on reading here from 55. Most of us begin this step as soon as possible after entering recovery, obviously at once we've done the other foundation steps behind it, and we demonstrate to others that are taking action to correct negative situations. That's a pretty good definition of what an amends is. It's not just an I'm sorry, as Gary said, it's corrective action to the situations caused by our behavior while under the influence. So we're clearing up our side of the street for the damage we've done from a direct result of our being under the influence, our drunken using. Good judgment needs to be exercised. Okay. Or we may rekindle arguments. That's a warning. So that's why we talk it over with our sponsor. So we make sure we're clearing up our side of the street and it's the right time to do so. So that's a warning. You just don't want to go into this because you've decided to do it without real reflection. And we'll get into that more later. Or try to buy peace of mind at the expense of others. Okay, I've done some damage, and I could think of several situations where it just would have done more damage for me at this point in my life to go back in and stir up and rekindle, right? Rekindle a fire. Um, we need to talk with our sponsors and fellow members about this step, and I can't stress that enough. I went in and did an amends when I wasn't under proper guidance, and it was thrown back in my face. I really hurt that person badly and they've never spoken to me since. So we have to do this walking with somebody like the other steps, but this one in particular. Amends take a little bit of practice. It gets easier as we go along. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the little red book, and we've got a lot to cover, but we're going to start reading, going around the room. So Ron, if you can call up page 81, steps 8 and 9 of the little red book. And then as we did in the past, I'm going to stop so that you can highlight the key idea that the workbook, the little red book study guide tells us is this is a key point for this step. and suggest some things to think about. So what I'm going to do, we're not going to have time to go through every one of these and go round robin about what we think about each of these key ideas. So at least we're going to have the recording with the questions asked. And then at the end of the meeting, we can get into whatever's coming up for you guys, okay? So who would like to kick us off with the reading? We're going to start with the objectives of step 8 and 9. Barb,
I can read if you want.
okay, kick us off, Barb.
Step 8 and 9. Make a list to all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. Made a direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when we do so would injure them or others. The objective of 8-9 is to outline and put into practice a working course of conduct which will directly rectify the harm or injury our drinking may have imposed upon others. We can then start relating harmoniously to God and other people.
Go ahead.
The practice of Alcoholics Anonymous philosophy adequately fulfills these requirements. It is a proven way of life by which the alcoholic corrects past mistakes and makes restitutions to relatives, friends, or enemies. This is done while the alcoholic affects his or her recovery from the physical, mental, and spiritual ravages of alcoholism.
Okay, let's stop there. Hang on one sec. Okay, so that second sentence, it is a proven way of life by which the alcoholic, okay, so way of life. It's not a case that we're just going to do this once and we're done and dusted, because it's like a bad onion. You're going to find as you move on in your sobriety and the steps are circular, right? So we're doing our best efforts first round through to get through the lists that come to mind and the people that we can handle dealing with our amends right now. But we're going to have a later go at it. And now going through it for the 5th time, I've got new ones that came up for me. So this is the key idea 1. Underline that: proven way of life by which the alcoholic corrects. Okay, notice the word corrects. The whole point of the amends is as best we're able to put the person back into the position before our alcoholic or using behavior caused the damage. So it's correcting it as best we're able. And makes restitution. What is restitution? Restitution means to make whole again. So to the best of our ability, we are correcting and making whole for what we've done. So I've asked the question, and it's a hard one, what do I need to do to make this okay with you? And then be prepared for the answer. Okay, if you owe them $1,500 and what's going to make it okay for them is to pay $1,500, you need to be prepared to do that. Okay, so that is key idea number 1 then there. So proven way of life, and that's a step 8, proven the key concept. Okay, let's carry on.
Do you want me to carry on or somebody else?
Yeah, carry on. We got lots of reading tonight.
Okay, where we're
Many alcoholics.
Many alcoholics agree to the effectiveness of philosophy, but fail to benefit from it because they have not properly evaluated their alcoholic illness. Not believing themselves to be sick, they see no reason for inconveniencing themselves to get well. Reservations about their spiritual illness create indifference to the making of amends. Members do not arrest alcoholism or gain recovery by merely agreeing with the principles of a philosophy. They recover only if they live them. These steps work in conjunction with each other. We have a list of those we have harmed. We have our grudge list, and we have a list of those we are financially obligated to. Few of us realize that our own names head the list of those we have wronged, and that by living this program, we are first making amends to ourselves, to outraged bodies, to our confused minds, and to our troubled spirits. It is not difficult to people.
Just need to stop you there. Okay,
Yep.
so the key concept number 2 is these steps of the very first sentence, these steps work in conjunction with each other. So step 8 and 9 are done at the same time. They can't be really taken separately. We make the list and then we work with the list. So that's key concept number 2. Okay, who wants to read next? We're going to start at the bottom of page 82. It is not difficult.
Sure, John, alcoholic. It is not difficult to list the people who suffered because we drank. Our real problem is to arrive at a state of mind that concedes the damage we have done and embraces a sincere willingness to amend it. Step 9 is not easily or quickly carried out. Some restitution is started upon our acceptance of the AA program as a way of life. This is usually quite limited, as it is not until we have spent several months in AA and have fortified our sobriety with good fundamental knowledge of the program that we acquire the spiritual courage and understanding to make discreet reparations.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. Okay, so the key concept number 2 is practicing the principles. And this is something to write in the margin or just make a note of. It says that I cannot benefit and be removed of guilt until, here's a list that's not in here. No, number 1, I need to become aware of it. That's why we're making the list in 8, aware of it. Number 2, I'm going to own it. And number 3, I'm going to grieve it. I'm going to own it. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to feel the shame or whatever it else that is that went along with it. And then I'm letting it go. That's how 8 and 9 are working. So I'm aware of it, and that's where I write it down and nail it. Okay. I'm owning it. I'm reading it and saying, yeah, this is my side of the street. And I'm 3, I'm grieving it. I'm having feelings about this stuff. And then I'm letting it go. Once we've made the amend, it's gone. You don't have to go back and beat yourself up over it anymore. You've cleaned up to your side of the street to the best of your ability. And then it says in the notes, it said, with my pride in balance, I become more aware of the right timing in making my variety of amends too. So that's the other key point in here is timing. Okay, we do this with sensitivity and guidance. We just don't go start running around and speaking to everybody we can think of and saying, I'm an AA, these are resentments, I've got to, and just to make ourselves feel better. So that's pride. We are really going to reflect on this and do this carefully. Okay, John, carry on with the member is confronted.
Yeah. The member is confronted with many obstacles in observance of this step. We find procrastination a hindrance to some members. This should be avoided. On the other hand, there are those who are too ambitious to rebuild. They try to get the process over with at once. Remember, in most cases, you will require a lifetime to complete step 9. Some members, under inspiration of the new personalities they are creating, become emotional and act on the spur of the moment. Their hasty action is apt to fall short of accomplishment. Pride is another barrier. Confusion through improper interpretation of the purpose of step 9 is a common handicap.
Okay, let's stop there. Okay, so key idea number 3 is in here. So first of all, it says we find procrastination. Procrastination is what? It's a character defect. So if you're avoiding doing this step, recognize it's a character defect, own it, grieve it, let it go. Let's move into our 2.0 version and get on with the work. And then it says, on the other hand, we might be overzealous about this stuff and just, oh, I got to get this off my plate and I'm going to go and blurt all this, and I've done it. And don't be surprised if it's thrown back in your face and they don't want to talk to you again. This has to be considered and done with reflection and prayer. So the concept in 3 is, in most cases, you will require a lifetime to complete step 9. In other words, you can't speed this up. And the thing that's really good is that in a few minutes, we're going to hit, how we break it down for timing for who to talk to. But you can't, some of these things, we have to be conscious that and here's the thing I have to do. And here's your perfect check for whether it's time or not. What are my motives? Am I doing this solely to get this off my chest, or am I really trying to make it right for the other person? Or is this just about, I've got to get this off of my chest now to make me feel good? I don't care where they're at. And if I've just done something, maybe they need some time and I have to be a little more considered and thoughtful. So that's key concept number 3, is that it takes a lifetime. Okay, carry on, John.
Sure. The older members will be helpful if consulted wherever perplexities are encountered. Do not act hastily or in doubt. Invite their opinions. Then formulate a plan of action, and with God's help, start correcting your wrongs. Meditation and prayer are necessary to make amends. No amends should be made that is not preceded by prayer, as it will lack complete purpose and effectiveness. Conscious contact with God in making amends will not only bring about a more satisfactory result, but it will aid you in avoiding amends that might injure others. Discretion in this connection is imperative.
Okay, let's stop there. Key concept number 4. So that first sentence, meditation and prayer are necessary. Okay, that's not saying you can do it if you want. That's a must. Meditation and prayer are necessary to make amends. So considered reflection. No amends should be made that is not preceded by prayer. So in the materials, and if you go back, and you don't have to change the screen right now, but under this key idea number 4, it defines meditation as this: taking quiet time for myself. So it's not like the same meditation like we do in Meditate at 8. This is quiet time to reflect on the job at hand. And in other words, not being impulsive. That's the meditation, calm reflection. Then it defines prayer. I seek courage for the confidence to take positive action while making an amend. Positive action. So I'm praying for help. I'm asking other people to guide me, and I'm reflecting on it, and I'm praying for my higher power to help me with the words and help me work with my sponsor or older members, the experienced members, for how to go about this. And again, I'm going to repeat this over and over again. How free do you want to be? If it's on your conscience, it's got to be on the list and ultimately addressed. Okay, and the other thing I've got written down here again is motive, motive, motive. What is my motive for each amend? Is it about me, or am I really trying to get it right with them? Okay, let's switch it up. Maya, do you want to pop in on God's presence?
Yeah, I would love to. My alcoholic. God's presence in our lives now alters and sublimates our mental and physical activities. It gives us the humility we need to make amends and an incentive to get started. We are trying to put our lives in order. We do this through maximum service to God and the people around us.
Okay, let's stop right there. I didn't know what sublimates meant in this context. So it says God's presence in our life now alters and sublimates. Sublimates actually means to modify something to a higher level. So this is really about going from our 1.0 version to our 2.0 version and talking about walking in God's presence. So we're moving into character assets and we're walking with God. It sublimates our mental and physical activities. And then it says it gives us the humility. Well, what is humility? It's a character asset. So as we're going through this process, we are transforming. We are moving to a higher level. We are connecting with our higher power and we are moving into action. So that, and then it says, and again, it's italicized. We do this through maximum service to God and the people about us. What are we doing? We're getting out of our selfish 1.0 version and moving into the next level of what we can best version of ourselves that we can possibly be, connected to our higher power. So go back, and I read that paragraph 5 or 6 times and it just got deeper for me each time I read it because it really does bring home what I'm trying to accomplish here. Let's carry on.
The questions now arise. Whose names belong on our list? How do we go about making amends to these people? What procedure do we follow? Our answers to these questions are found in Alcoholics Anonymous in chapter 6 under discussion on steps 8 and 9. The following summary of certain advice taken from those pages is incomplete and must be enlarged upon by each member in application to his particular needs. We will find it impossible to cover this complex matter in its entirety, but we have listed a few suggestions and examples for guidance. Our list classifies 4 types of people who make amends to. The list comments on the 5th type of people who are not generally included in the list, yet these people must constantly be considered if daily sobriety is to be assured.
Okay, so let's stop there. Number 5, the key idea number 5 is, if you go backtrack a little bit, and that's still that top paragraph on the previous page. Sorry, I'll just say it's discretion. It's the connection to this is imperative, discretion. So the definition of discretion in this context is that as an alcoholic, I am a self-centered person. And it's a positive learning experience for me to move into the 2.0 version of taking other people's feelings into account. So that is discretion, that has to be exercised. This is the key idea number 5, exercise discretion. Think about what other people are going to feel when you're making your amends. It's not, we are cleaning up our side of the street, just to make this clear, but it's not about making me feel good if it's going to be at the cost of making somebody else feel bad. And that can very much be on an individual case-by-case method. If you're not sure whether to make amends to somebody or how to make amends or the timing of the amends, that's where we need to rely on the experience of others. Okay, so now what we're going to do, and this is super helpful. If you're struggling with knowing who you need to make amends to, this breaks down now to a number of groups. So the following, this is another one of these lists in here tonight. This list is going to be the type of people that we're going to make amends to. And let's see, we've got, yeah, this is okay. Hang on. Ron, do you want to carry on from group 1 friends?
Okay, yes. Do you want me to read?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Group 1 friends. This group includes people who have been close friends, business associates, those who should be friendly in toward, those we should be friendly toward, but we have severed connections with them because of resentments, pride, or fancied worries. Fancied wrongs. Those we have treated unjustly, but have not been harmed aside from harsh words or acts of asinine behavior, and those who we are not financially indebted to. We should approach these people with sincerity. Our approach is calm, frank, and open. We aim to convince such people of our good intentions and to assure them that we regret how we treated them. We
Okay,
explain
just stop right there. One sec. So notice what we're talking about here. It's how we treated them. Okay, this is, in other words, my side of the street. As Gary was saying last week, it's not my, yeah, but they did this to me. We're owning our side of the street, and we have to resist all temptation to, that's what it means. You've probably heard the saying to take somebody else's inventory. I'm not opening this up. If it's an old argument, and this is again where discretion is important in this, I'm not opening this up to go and revisit the argument. I'm opening it up to own my side of it and any damage my drinking and using has caused as a result of this argument. Okay, carry on, Ron.
We explain our alcohol illness, the nature of resentments and hatred in relation to our sobriety. We outline our good intentions and ask forgiveness and cooperation in our future associations. Our purpose is to create goodwill and regain friendship.
Now, that paragraph right there is really useful if you don't know how to kick off starting an amend. I think these are really good instructions to say, explaining, you know, I'm an alcoholic and I know that two things are going to take me down, having resentments and self-pity. And to explain that I come here with totally good intentions. And I'm asking for forgiveness for the harm I have caused to you. So this actually really helps with some language that you might want to use for kicking off your amends with somebody. Okay, carry on, Ron.
We avoid impressing anyone with the idea that we are religious fanatics, but we never sidestep the spiritual issue or deny God if he is brought into the conversation. We do not attempt amends to those who are still smarting from a recent injustice and never make amends that will harm another person.
So right there again, I want to emphasize that again, like the previous page it said, and one of the key points, timing, discretion. Just because you want to get rid of it right now for you, if it's something that happened recently and you know you're just going to go in there and cause, like say it's Christmas Eve and you decide, oh, I can't bear this anymore. I've got to go and I got to clear the air now. So I'm going to ruin everyone else's Christmas, right? It's again, using that sort of timing and making sure we don't harm other people in the process. It's an unselfish act that we're doing here. Okay, carry on.
There will be a few cases where our advances will be rejected. If we are unable to establish a reconciliation and are not favorably received, we simply drop the matter in hopes that eventually our sobriety and future datings will repair the breach between us.
Okay, stop there. Okay, what happens if it's thrown in your face? That's what this is saying, and I've had this happen. It says right in the big book that we don't grovel, right? If you're not necessarily going to have the experience that somebody is willing to accept your amends. And it says right there, these are clear instructions. Simply drop the matter. And then go on living your life and showing that it takes time for people to trust us again. And there may be another occasion, a better timing to do it. But at least then it's a living amends. If you continue to be sober and be the 2.0 version of yourself, you're demonstrating that you're not the same person that caused that harm. And the last paragraph, Ron?
The main points to keep in mind are we are out to perform a duty. We will not be upset or discouraged by gruff or unpleasant receptions. The intent of our visit is a harmonious one, and under no circumstances will we live in an angry or resentful mood.
Okay, so this is also why we need to walk this step through. If you've got a complicated amends, you need a plan. And it said so in the previous page. You know, we go into this with consideration, prayer, meditation, and we have a plan that we've talked to with a respected member of an AA or our sponsor. And I've done this. I had to go into a family situation and a wedding, and I was MC, and most of my family was drunk. And my sponsor talked me through, there may be occasions that you find you are going to have an opportunity to make an amends. but make sure you evaluate the situation carefully of whether or not it's appropriate. If somebody else is drunk at a wedding, that's not the time for me to start putting my heart in my sleeve and telling them, making an amends. They're not going to remember it, but it's probably not going to go the way I planned anyway. And anyway, that's just an example. Okay. Who would like to read next? Barb, do you want to kick off group 2 families? Are you there?
Sure. Yep. So sorry, where exactly where am I starting?
It's on the start reading from the top of the page on the screen there, the people.
The people are under the group, that one?
Yep.
Correct?
Yep. Yes.
Sorry, I just have something in the stove. Yeah, it's fine. The people under this group are generally found in our families. The outstanding examples are spouses of alcoholics. The people who follow are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, and often close friends, whose lives have been kept in turmoil because of our selfish and inconsiderate habits. We have been like a tornado roaring our way through the lives of others, breaking hearts and killing sweet relationships. The damage we have done to this group has been spread over many years. It will take many years to amend.
Okay, so let's just stop there. So this is basically a paragraph that's asking the question, who have I done this to? Where have I been? Make it personal. Okay, we're talking about you. Where have you been a tornado roaring your way through the life of somebody else? Who is that person? They belong on the list, right? Breaking their hearts and killing sweet relationships. Where has your alcoholic or using behavior broken hearts or killed a sweet relationship? And that they belong on the list. So this really helps us. Who have I done these things to? Who have I kept in turmoil because of my selfish and inconsiderate habits of drinking and using? That opened the list up for me today, asking that question. Okay, I see Barb's had to step probably back to the stove. Laura, would you like to pick up?
Yeah, perfect timing. Done my soup. Okay, are we at our approaches?
Top of 87, the manner of our approach.
So I have the original 1946 edition, so it's going to be a little different.
Okay, it's
I
on
could
the
read-
screen too, the manner
I
of
could
our
read on the
approach.
screen. Okay, I'll do that. Laura, alcoholic addict. Okay, the manner of our approach should be no problem unless homes have been broken up and separation makes reparation impossible. Even then, we will benefit from living the program, as our record of sobriety usually comes to the attention of the injured one. Time may be required to effect reconciliation, but satisfactory adjustments are generally forthcoming. Often this has been handled through correspondence, but direct contact is preferable in all cases wherever possible.
Okay, so what on earth is that paragraph talking about? Basically, what it's saying is that you could have a situation where you can't repair it. Things have fallen apart so bad, and reparation, making amends is not possible. And then it says, what do we do then? Well, we have living amends, live the program, right? That's what that means. And as our record of sobriety, as we stay sober longer and longer and do esteemable acts, people notice. People start to trust us little by little, and it takes some longer than others to see that we really have changed. Because if you're an alcoholic like me, more than once I've said I'm not going to drink again. Does that sound familiar to any of you? I have sworn and truly believed at the time I've said it that I was never going to drink or use again. And I did. So it's going to take the people we've hurt some time to believe that this time we've really got this thing and that we really are genuine in trying to work our program. So again, that's why it's a matter of timing and discretion. Okay, carry on, Laura.
Thank you. If the home is still intact, family members are aware of the alcoholic's desire to treat the alcoholic illness, and they seldom fail to back the alcoholic in this purpose. It is
So
important that
that I'm just going to translate that. Basically, it's saying talk to your family about it. Explain what we're doing because it's not always easily understood what we're doing. And as they see that this is working, then the family is in more often than not, they're going to back us. Because they know how hard we're trying this stuff. Carry on, Laura. Sorry. It is important.
Thank you. It is important that they read Alcoholics Anonymous to gain an understanding of alcoholism and the steps outlined in our program for its treatment. A new member needs the full understanding and cooperation of the family. The alcoholics' amends to them are more thorough and are made with greater ease when the family realizes what the alcoholic is trying to do.
Okay, so that is wishful thinking in my experience. Just because I got this thing doesn't mean everybody I know wants to read Alcoholics Anonymous and understand what's going on with me. But if I'm going to be making an amends to them, I have to make a best efforts to try and explain the purpose. And that's again that paragraph before giving you some ideas of how to start this thing, because it can seem very weird to somebody you haven't seen for a long time that you say, hey, can we get together? I need to talk to you. And then we start pouring our heart out. So, this is again why we need to, but the family, it's saying here, more often than not has our back. Give them but the copy of the book, the family afterwards, if they read nothing else, that chapter, that can be helpful. But it's down to us to really interpret this for them if we're going to do an amends with the family member and they really haven't got a clue what we're doing. Carry on.
Thank you. Our sobriety is a blessing to the individuals in group 2. As a rule, it is the greatest single amend we can make to them. Yet it is a partial amend that must be followed with kind and thoughtful acts. Sobriety in itself is not enough. We must be attentive and considerate of the family as a whole. Harmony and cooperation should be established. Evidence of our love and a desire to become worthy of their respect will be most helpful. Irreparable damage is not unusual. When encountered, it can only be offset by obvious manifestation of our willingness to correct the condition, if possible. We lose no time in making the amends that are possible.
Okay, so that is one of the most beautiful paragraphs. I just love this. I love this sentence. My sobriety is itself is my greatest amend. I'm working so hard to stay sober. And the fact that I'm putting days together, weeks together, months together, years together, it is the best. The way I can heal other people the most is by showing them that I truly demonstrating that I truly have changed, that I truly am sober. Okay, and then it says in this last part of it, it's talking about the for the one where the damage can't be repaired, and that irreparable damage, and it says the obvious only way to deal with that one is just to continue being sober and living sober. Okay, and now we're a little word about sex. Okay, so that's the carry on, Laura. You got the sex paragraphs now.
Sex-related problems complicate the lives of many alcoholics. The first consideration in handling them is to stop the trouble at its source. Honesty is a prime factor in the lives of all members and leaves no room for adultery. Injury to others must be considered in straightening out sex-related problems. We always use great tact in handling the situation if amends are in order. Jealousy, when aroused, greatly impedes our progress. Fairness, meditation, and prayer must be relied upon. We lay the matter in God's hands and are then guided by the dictates of His will and our conscience.
So that's just a brief summary of how to do the amends that are regarding our sex relations. And again, the fundamental principle here is honesty. Okay, Annie, are you there? Would you like to pick up on 89 with group 3? No.
Annie might be at work, so she might just be
Oh,
listening.
okay. Michelle's just turned her camera on. Michelle, would you like to carry on with group 3? Page 89? It's on the screen.
I've got it right here, thank you. Group 3, creditors. We do not dodge our creditors. The creditor usually knows about our drinking. If not, we should lay our cards on the table. If payment is impossible, we arrange the best deal we can. Repayment may begin on a future date, or we may begin making small payments, increasing these amounts when we are financially stronger. The main idea is to have an understanding. We must be at ease in this connection, otherwise fear may return us to drinking. When creditors understand the nature of our alcoholic illness, they will readily see money cannot be repaid unless we maintain sobriety. They will then in a better mood to receive our proposition.
Okay, so creditors, this is again, common sense approach. And notice it's talking about having a plan. If you owe money, and you've got creditors knocking on your door, every time you see those red bills and, it can fill you with fear. And we can't hide from these things. So again, we go for advice and guidance on this. And if you've got a massive amount of debt that's accumulated over this, my experience helping people with this is that a lot of your debt, especially interest, will be removed, and you won't have to pay it back. When you try and reconcile a lot of debt, it's important to have it down on paper, and we don't hide from it. We figure out with assistance from someone else what we can afford to pay, and then we put it to them with a plan. And it might be $50 a week, for the next 5 years. But my experience with this one is a lot of times the actual amount that ends up being paid back is a very significant less proportion than it is if you ignore it and just let the interest and the courts and everything else get involved. Then you're looking at legal expenses and all the rest of it. It's being honest and having communication, honest, openness, willingness. And that goes a long way with creditors. Okay, carry on with group 4, Michelle.
Sure. Group 4, the deceased. The harm we have done to departed relatives or friends is often cause for self-condemnation. This should not be. It is a harmful practice. We treat self-condemnation with intelligent prayer. We must realize the futility of remorse over wrongs that we cannot amend. We do not allow such errors of the past impair our future usefulness. We reason that the harm done will be partially offset by the new philosophy we are living. Even though we cannot reach the departed one, we can still make amends to living relatives. If this is impossible, we resort to God in prayer, asking Him to see the willingness in our hearts and to forgive us in our connection with these people.
Okay, so there's no point beating ourselves up over people that have passed that we have not seen us in full recovery. And I had my last conversation with my mother before she died. I was drunk. And it wasn't a nasty conversation. I was in Hawaii and having a good time, and she was in hospital going through a hip replacement. I didn't know at the time it was going to be my last conversation with her. And unfortunately, she went downhill very fast. And the long story is, I wasn't able to get back there to be with her when she passed. And part of what gives me peace in this one today is exactly what is said in this paragraph. it's futile for me to beat myself up over that lost conversation I had with her. I mean, I would have preferred it was sober. I also didn't know she was going to die. So I don't beat myself up over it, but I know that she's looking down and she would be very proud of the woman I am today, helping others. And that's my living amends. The two things she had asked for me, she said, is Jill, I hope you find contentment and I hope you find a higher power. And I hope you don't drink again. All three of those things I'm living today as I'm moving to my 2.0 version. And she tells me she approves. You know, you can have these conversations with the deceased. What it's saying here is we don't beat ourselves up about it. And if we can make amends, one of the things I'm going to do this summer or this spring is have a 65th birthday party inviting all my relations, those I like and don't like, and give everybody the opportunity to get together again. I know my mother would love that. That's what she would do. So that's kind of a living amends thing I'm trying to do. Carry on, Michelle.
Okay.
Then there are those. Oh, then there are the
Oh,
amends.
yes. Then there are the amends we must make daily. Oh, sorry. Then there are the amends we must daily make to God. These become automatic. They are the requirements of each of the 12 steps. The AA program is one big amend broken into 12 parts. Before we can settle the harm done to others, we must eliminate the source of moral and physical devastation within ourselves. Alcoholism is our illness. It caused the injuries we imposed on our families, friends, and those loved ones we have who have departed. It accounts for our
Indebtedness.
indebtedness.
Yeah.
It is responsible for our impaired physical condition. It has brought us irrational thinking, insane behavior, and spiritual illness.
So it's just, you know, that's a real summary of what we've got. Like I have this thing. I have caused injury. And so again, put this into first person. We're not reading this like it's somebody else's problem. Alcohol is, I read this paragraph, my illness. I caused the injury to my family, my friends, and my loved ones who have departed. Um, and it accounts for my indebtedness, what I owe. Um, Alcoholism is responsible for my impaired physical condition. I suffer gastro problems and stuff from what I did to myself when I was drinking. It brought me to irrational thinking, insane behavior. You know, we've been through all this in our earlier steps, and our spiritual illness, our spiritual malady. So that paragraph there is a really good summary of what I've got. And I needed to read that paragraph and own it. I've got this thing. So I need treatment. I need AA, and I need these steps to help me with this spiritual malady that has caused all these other things. And if you're drank and used like I did, you probably too suffer physical maladies, and have caused damage to other people, impaired physical condition. So you look at that paragraph and apply it to yourself and truly own this thing, accept it. Okay, carry on, Michelle.
Sure. We make amends to ourselves, to the personalities we were before becoming alcoholic, by understanding our sickness, by eliminating our defects of character, by eliminating them from our lives, by intelligent physical care of our bodies, by restoration of our mental apparatus through sobriety, and by treatment of our spiritual illness through recourse to understanding and practice God's will. The alcoholic's rehabilitation is cognate upon amends and will be as long as he or she lives.
Wow. Okay, that paragraph's got a lot in it. Okay, so it started with we make amends to ourselves. The whole process of what you are doing here tonight is you're forgiving yourself. By doing these steps, by taking actions, you are making an amend to yourself by virtue of doing these steps. That's what it's spelling out there. And then it says, by understanding our sickness, okay, by going to big book study groups, by reading through this book and line by line in big book studies or with our sponsor, by doing all the different things that we do in AA, we are understanding our sickness. And then it says, so by shining light on our defects of character, so this is what we were doing in our step 4s. By eliminating them from our lives, step 5, handing them over. By intelligent physical care of our bodies, we're starting to look after our body. Our body is moving into, our 2.0 version. By restoration of our mental apparatus through sobriety. We actually have scientific proof that synapses in our brain actually do repair, that circuitry does repair. Okay, all of these things, and practicing God's will for us, our connection to our higher power. And then it says the alcoholic's rehabilitation is contingent. What does contingent mean? It's absolutely reliant upon amends. And it will be for as long as you live. That's a pretty big statement there. That's a really jam-packed paragraph. And it's just outright telling you, get used to this. If you want to live sober and have emotional sobriety, how free do you want to be? The amends are the essential part of this to get removed from our spiritual malady. Okay, we've got 2.5 more pages left. Does anyone else want to jump back in? Or Michelle, did you want to carry on? Gary, did you want to read, or are you going to give your voice a break?
I think I better give it a break tonight. It's not hanging in there very well.
Okay.
I'll read the last 3 paragraphs.
Okay, we start with we are often inclined.
Yeah. We are often inclined to clutter our lists with petty wrongs long forgotten and of no importance. Amends of this sort would never end. They should be forgotten. Many of us have been uncertain over the advisability of making some amends. The yardstick to use in this connection is your conscience. If the wrong bothers you, it should undoubtedly be amended.
Okay, that is one of the new paragraphs that I love. Okay, because this is essentially answering the question, how do I know when an amends is necessary? And it says there's no need to go through every little minute of your life and look at every little petty, it says right there, petty, a little wrong that's long forgotten and of no importance. You don't have to dredge up every little thing from your past just to go looking for things to make amends for. That's not going to help anybody. And it said amends like this would never end. They should be forgotten. I like that. Clear instruction. If you got a bunch of little crap like that, forget about it. Let it go. Many of us have been uncertain over the advisability of making some amends. The yardstick, the measuring point to use in this connection is it still in your head? When you fall asleep at night, is it still whirling around in there? Are you having nightmares about it? Your conscience. And I found in this program, as I've got sober, things have come back into my head of things I had blacked out and forgotten. And I've had to go back and deal with those things. And I think that was my higher power's way of protecting me, because if I'd had everything at once, looked at everything at once, I would have been overwhelmed. But this means as things unravel and become aware of us, as you go through these lists of people and somebody comes to you, you got to deal with it if you want to be as free as you possibly can be. Okay, so your conscience, circle that word. Your conscience, if it's bothering you, undoubtedly, in other words, duh, you got to make an amends. All right, carry on.
The people covered in this discussion will not comprise a full list of those to whom we make amends. There will be others on our list, and we will find that new errors constantly occurring in our lives will send us back to make reparation to those already on the list. Step 9 has reclaimed many broken friendships. It has brought peace and happiness to the lives of those who suffered because of our alcoholism. Its great rehabilitative power has also offered the lives of thousands of alcoholics through the spiritual awakening they have experienced. Because of this step, these same alcoholics have recovered their self-respect, they have taken on courage and confidence, and they have assumed responsibility. They sense God's presence, and with His presence comes the realization that their lives are again becoming manageable.
Okay, so I've called these the amends promises. Because this is the experience of many people who have gone before us. Broken friendships. I personally have 2 adult children in my life that have never seen me drink. And that amends process and having them back in our life is directly as a result of this program. One of them is moving countries and moving in with us to carry on our business, a gift of the program. So a broken friendship or a broken relationship, fortunately, they've never seen me drunk, but I would not have been able to encourage my partner to reconnect those relationships and guide him through the often painful process of reconnecting with children. And now they're a very big part of our life, definitely a result of this program. So that's a promise. Broken friendships, broken relations. It brings us peace and happiness to our lives, to those who've suffered with our alcoholism. Even if our amends haven't been accepted or whatever, they can see that we're living our life differently. And then it says its great rehabilitative power has also affected the lives of thousands of other alcoholics through the spiritual awakening they have experienced. This has definitely got a pyramid effect, a ripple effect. As we get healthy relationships with people and we mend conflict, it's like somebody smiling at you and then you feel like smiling like at the next person. And I love this bit at the top of 92. I think this is really critical. It says we recover our self-respect. And that is true for me today. I respect the woman I am today. I did not respect the woman that was drinking and using. I was ashamed of her. But my 2.0 version, I'm getting very attached to, and I'm guarding it every day. That's why I'm here passing this on. I have to feed my program. And then it says we take our courage and our confidence and we assume responsibility. Look at how many people have come into Meditate at 8 and that were on benefits or weren't able to work or whatever, and they're back employed and they've gotten better. That's part of the gifts of this program. And then it says they sense God's presence. And this is just reminding us that God is with us in this program and our life becomes manageable. So that whole paragraph on 91 and 92, I've called those the amends promises. Okay. We've got one more page here starting with this summarization. I don't think Amy's in a position. Maya, are you in a position to read? Not sure here.
I am. So I just had
Oh,
to
okay,
switch
go
to
ahead.
I had to switch to my phone because my laptop crashed, but I can see summarization on my phone here. Yeah. Okay, summarization. We can hardly overestimate the importance of making amends. Most of us underestimate its power to change our attitude toward God, our fellow human beings, and everyday circumstances of sober living. Our bid for a new lease on life, for the tolerance and forgiveness we expect from others, should prompt us to respond with tolerance, forgiveness, and amends. AA teaches us to live and let live, that to live and let live is to safeguard our sobriety. Resentful attitudes toward others will defeat our recovery. We correct this attitude in the practice of step 9. Amends integrate our personalities by harmonious, helpful relations with God and the victims of our insane alcoholic obsession. We cannot hate and make amends at the same time.
So I just want to stop you there. That very first sentence, it's repeated several times in the big book. Resentments take us out. Resentment attitudes towards others will defeat our recovery. And I've seen that to be true. If you start having somebody that you are really getting increasingly agitated with, you got to clear the air. That's what our 10 and 11 is for, keeping current in the day. Otherwise, if you don't keep your inventory clean and current, you're going to have to go back and do a 4 on this and a 5 and then ultimately make an amends. So it's much easier once you start to recognize these feelings of resentment, to deal with them immediately than to have to go back and go through this whole process. We fester. It's like a sliver, right? It's just going to fester until we deal with it. How much pain do you want to be out of? We want to take every barb out so that we're free. Okay, let's carry on.
Admitting and rectifying wrongs is a regenerative process necessary for our rehabilitation. There's something blocking the next couple words there.
Spiritual understanding.
It brings us spiritual understanding and develops spiritual strength that contribute to contented sobriety. The 12 steps are one big amend that we make to God and to ourselves. Self-preservation demands this. We pay our creditors. We come clean with God and make amends to loyal friends and relatives, except when to do so might be harmful to them or others. Attitudes of reservation and unwillingness are dangerous for us. They fill us with discontent and belligerency that result in drunkenness. We are trying to put our lives in order. We do this through maximum service to God and the people about us. We believe this is the purpose of steps 8 and 9.
Okay, admitting and rectifying wrong is regenerative. Okay, regenerative, that's moving from your 1.0 version of yourself to your 2.0 version. It's a process necessary to our rehabilitation, right? We don't want to stay with all of the festering nonsense in our head in our 1.0 version. We want to be free of all of that anger and resentment and self-pity. So it brings us to a spiritual understanding. And that means and it says then, and develop spiritual strength. So we're walking this path with our higher power. We are consulting with our higher power. And then I love the beginning of that next paragraph, top of 93. And it says, we're making one big amend that we make to God and to ourselves. And honestly, that is really for me what this whole process is about. It's forgiving ultimately myself and giving myself a break and saying, you don't have to live that way anymore, Jill. You don't live that way anymore, Jill. It might take some other people a little bit longer to catch up with the fact that I've changed. And there may be those that never want to know me. And I've accepted that too. But I know that I have done everything I possibly can to clear up my side of the street. And as what these pages are telling us is, trust your intuition, trust your conscience. If something keeps coming into your mind, if you've done these steps before, but you've got something niggling, know that that needs to come to the front and know you need to take action. Again, how free do you want to be? And then the final paragraph in saying, we do this through maximum service to our God and the people about us. And that is living in the 12th step, passing this on. And that's also, remember, what you're doing in here. You're learning it for yourself, but then ultimately you get to give it away and share it with other people and make it understandable for someone out there who hasn't got it yet. And that's the beauty of this program, is we're ultimately all translators. We're all conduits for passing on this message from these blessed materials to saving lives. because it saved my life and it's saving it one day at a time. And I know if we practice and do this work that it'll do it for each and every one of us. And it is work. So that's got us through the materials.